G'day everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we are stitching up the leather sheath that we have been working on. You see here that we are measuring the thread against where the stitching is going, and generally for a sheath of this thickness I go about 7 times the length as to how much thread I'm using. Okay, I have threaded the needles. This part here, the piece of thread that's come through the needles, I'm just pricking back through that with the needle just to lock the thread onto the needle so it won't pull out. There we go, and just snugging it up tight to the needle so it's ready to sew with. Alright, we put the sheath into the stitching pony. And cheap little clamp. I have a homemade stitching pony. It is as cheap as chips to put together, and it's just a cheap little clamp to hold it together. And threading the needle through. Once the needle's through, we're just going to balance up the length of thread coming out each side. We just want to make it so it matches up, just so we can go through without having to put more thread on. That is possible to do, but if you can do it in a single run, that is much better. Alright. Now when you're doing the saddle stitch, you want to continually go from one side to the other side. You want to have your threads overlapping the same way each and every time, and it just keeps it a lot neater. And just as we pull through, just want to snug it up, and that happens for every stitch. So if you'll notice, every stitch is going from my left side across and then from my right side across. The right side needle is going in above the thread that come out of the left side. So this is what we call a saddle stitch. It's the type of stitch used traditionally by leather workers for doing saddle work, and having 2 threads there, they snug up tight against each other in it. Traditionally you'd use an awl to make the holes. I don't do it that way. I do the drilling of the holes. It just works a lot quicker for me. I'm not a professional leather maker. I basically do leather for my sheaths. Now those who are paying attention and have watched the previous videos will notice that this sheath is a little bit different from the last video. We had a certain family member decided he liked the sheath more than me. But of course it wouldn't be fair to name that certain party. So basically I've had to go through and remake the sheath completely from the start, and I cannot give it to a client with a knife. If it's got a couple of tooth marks in it, that would be just bad practice. So this is an entirely new sheath that I had to go through and make it up to the stage where we had in the previous videos. You can see there, just loosen the clamp, moving across on the stitching pony. And this is normally a nice, calm, meditative sort of thing. I don't mind the stitching at all. It's something I do as I'm watching YouTube myself. Enjoyed, having YouTube up on the TV, just stitching away. It doesn't take a lot of attention. You just got to make sure you're keeping everything tight and smooth as you go along. Okay, just here as I try to pull up these stitches, so they don't pull up so well. I've had the thread go through, so the needle's gone through the opposite thread. which means you've then got to pull it apart. This is something that happens as you're stitching. It's a pain, but it happens. And then you've got to sort of pull everything backwards, clean it up, and then start moving on again. I've tried to back thread it on this one. I couldn't do it. I ended up just clipping it off and rethreading the needle. But yeah, and it's just one of those things that happens as you're stitching. Now the thread I use is a 0.8mm Ritza or tiger thread. It is a flat braided polyester thread that has been waxed. It's the thread that a lot of people tend to use. Yeah, the tiger thread just seems to be the go-to thread. It's a waxed polyester thread, like I said. It's got a flat profile, so it lays a little flatter, it looks a little prettier. The waxing helps it lock together within the stitches, and yeah, it's some good stuff. Okay, once it's gone all the way to the end and we snugged it up tight, we're going to head back the other direction and double stitch some of it. You notice I'm using the pliers to pull the needle out often on the second stitch, just because it's very snug in those holes now, because there's 4 threads worth of stitch in there, so it makes it really snug and helps to lock everything in place. So we just come back along. Generally you do 3 to 4 stitches. I had a bit of room in this stitching and I had a bit of thread left, so I took it a bit further. It never hurts to be sure. You know, it's not looking ugly. We snip it off. We just use a lighter just to burn off the end of it. And here's a quick picture of my stitching pony. It's just made up out of some 1/2 inch 12mm lining boards, and it's just designed to sit underneath my legs so I can work in front of me. Okay, last part of the stitching phase is we want to even out the stitches. We're just using a soft face hammer. Here I'm using my poly mallet and I'm using a clean side on it and just tapping down on the stitches, just making sure all the tension in them's evened out and it's all sitting nice and even in the tension department. Just helps to relax the stitches and get it all sitting right. Alright, thank you very much everyone for watching. This is the last part of the stitching process. Next we move up to finishing the sheath, and I go through and discuss it. This is the first time I've made one of these sheaths, and yeah, I wasn't overall happy about the process, so we will talk about that. Once again, thank you very much for watching. Please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit that little bell notification so you know when there's further videos come out in this series or in any of the other things I do. And thank you very much for your time. Bye for now.